Hi, welcome. This is an introductory video for NSG684, Intermediate Statistics. My name is Dr. Jessica Bishop-Royse. I often go by Dr. JBR, so let's get into it. So this course is meant to help students refresh their knowledge about statistics and quantitative reasoning, but also kind of get ready for the advanced statistics courses the advanced statistics topics they'll be seeing in 685. So in this course, we're going to get there by applying data management principles to the collection and analysis of data that is used in healthcare research. Now, at some point, I think you will probably be in a position to collect and analyze your own data. So we want to make sure that you understand the principles of data collection and analysis so that you can do a good job. All right. Secondly, we want you to apply the statistical principles in simulated healthcare research scenarios. When the time comes, you may be in a position to have to decide which tests, which things to collect. And, honestly, if the test follows what you collect, then you want to know that you are able to set yourself up for success because you've done a good job with the data collection. It's really hard to do data analysis on data that, have been collected very poorly. And then finally, we want to be able to evaluate the appropriate use of intermediate statistics, theories, tests, et cetera, in the published research. And this is so that we can understand, various strengths of articles that are published, but also understanding that so that as we move forward and we begin doing independent research, we understand, what are the various, sort of pros and cons of any particular way forward statistically and analytically. I earned my PhD from Florida State University in 2010. Following that, I did a postdoc in the College of Medicine at FSU. And then DePaul University got me to Chicago. I worked as a senior research methodologist in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences for 9 years before coming to Rush. Also in that time, I was an adjunct instructor in the School of Nursing and the Master's Public Health program and the Department of Sociology. I like to think about statistics being sort of three main core areas of knowledge or competency, kind of like pillars, if you will. The first is a quantitative and theoretical thinking pillar, and then there's the technical and analytical piece, and then there's the writing and communication pillar. The quantitative and theoretical thinking is sort of understanding it's the most mathy part of statistics. It's understanding, that what you're really looking at when you're looking at a standard deviation is you're looking at a function and how to make various functions work together to give us answers that we need. And then there's also the technical and analytical part, which is, basically just, can you learn the language that SPSS or SAS or R or Stata is built on to get answers, to put in your data and to get answers that you need to answer research questions. And then the third piece would be the writing and communication, because the theoretical understanding and the technical sort of skills don't matter if you can't communicate what you did and the implications of what you did for research. So at the end of the day, I think that most people who take a course like this will find that they are really well developed in 1 to 2 areas of these three competencies, and then maybe lacking in a third. So for me, the technical and analytical skills and the writing and the communication skills are skills that I think have developed very well. Those are things that I think are my bread and butter. Those are the things that are easy for me and that I'm good at and that I like to do. The theoretical understanding, the thinking about, how variances affect the results, or, understanding that, there's a whole class of tests that come from and that are based on a normal distribution. And, it's just, I have less understanding of it. And that I'm going to lay at the feet of my incredible math anxiety I had growing up. And to be honest, like, it's kind of shocking that I'm here doing this, because I think most of my instructors in grad school would have been like, I don't know. I don't know if JBR is the person for this. Only because I just wasn't very strong at it. I learned how to do a couple of things really well, and I learned like how to do them on a deep level. But what I came to understand when I started teaching stats classes at DePaul was that my understanding of stats was actually very narrow. It was incredibly deep at what I did know, but it was very narrow. And essentially, what I had done was I eschewed so much of what we do in statistics because my own particular projects as a grad student didn't require, had kind of a special case of data. And I made the mistake of thinking that, what I had was what everybody would have. And so that's what we cared about. That's what we wanted to do. And what I realized is that that's not the case at all. That, I was working with these vital registration data sets where there's, 100,000, 120, 200,000 observations. And that's not what most people have. Most people have data that are, at best 600 rows of data. And it's, it may be out of an RCT, it may be out of, a really well recruited survey project. But at the end of the day, 600 observations, you're limited to what you can do with that. And so the multi-level modeling, the advanced regression modeling, all the things that I had built my, sort of reputation and my bread and butter on as a grad student were not useful at all. So I ended up, when I started teaching these classes, having to reteach myself a lot of this, a lot of the sort of early stuff you learn in statistics and stuff that is most useful because it's the tools that people need. It's working with smaller data sets. It's working with non-parametric tests instead of parametric, and just even understanding what the difference was between those. And so I've been through it all. And so I think that I'm a very good person to teach this class. I also had, until I started teaching stats, a really strong math anxiety, and that math anxiety made me kind of convince me that I wasn't good at stats. And actually what it was that I didn't have a lot of really good stats teachers as an undergrad. And so I got to grad school and was just like, I couldn't keep up. And I remember sitting in class, like writing out notes furiously, back in the day when, in the early 2000s, just trying to write furiously, get through the board of notes, and just being really frustrated because while I was writing that, my brain was just like, you are not good at this. What are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. This is so dumb. You're dumb. Like, why are you here? You should just quit now. Like that internal monologue. So when students tell me that they're struggling, like, I understand what that struggle is. That struggle is going on. That's what they have going on in their brain. So I think I'm really good for teaching this class. Now, that said, I have some keys for success. Okay. This is what's going to get you through this quarter, this term. Okay. 1, understand that the learning acquisition that's going to happen in this class is going to happen with iteration. Okay. You're not going to get it just after reading the chapter, especially the chapter of this textbook. This textbook is, I love Andy Field, the guy that wrote it, but it's a hot mess. There's so much going on. Like, it is just ADHD on ADHD on tangents. It's hard. This textbook is hard. Okay. I think it's very difficult to get everything you need out of just the chapter, reading the chapter. I also think that it's really difficult to just listen to my lectures or watch my lectures and get everything you need. Same. Okay. I also think that, like, just doing those two things, it's not enough. That's why we have you doing the homework assignments and, while we have you going through activities so that you can actually apply, because stats is a thing that has to be applied to know it. You can't, the theoretical understanding, like understanding just, accepting what I tell you in a lecture is true. That's one level, but to really get at it, you have to do different activities. So that's why the understanding is that your preparation, your understanding this material gets better the more you work with it. It happens in layers, kind of like an onion. That said, the preparation. This is not a class you can drop out of and tune out after a week and then come back in 2 to 3 weeks and expect you're going to be able to keep up. Okay. I have yet to see that happen. I mean, I've taught a lot of classes, but there are people that think that they can do that, but they can't. Just so don't do that. All right. Do not tune out for any amount of time. This needs to be something that you're doing daily. Thinking about it, reading it, watching it, doing activities, just do it daily. Okay. And then that way it's constantly on your mind and you're constantly getting a deeper and deeper understanding of it. And it's not one of these things where you're coming in doing activities for the course on one day. It's a heavy lift. It's tiring. It's exhausting. And your understanding ends up ultimately not being as well developed because, it's such a big lift on the day that you do it that you're just not making those sort of secondary connections. All right. Third key, be resourceful, systematic, and organized. All right. You are in the golden age of learning anything, particularly learning anything online, because there are so many resources for you. Okay. This is not like taking classes in the early 2000s where you had a textbook. All right. Like I literally started grad school before YouTube started. Okay. There are now channels on channels on channels of people who are making video screencasts that show you how to do anything you'd want to do. Okay. So the content is out there. All right. The resources are out there. If you go through this class with big gaps in your understanding of how to do things, that is on you. All right. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm laying out, activities for you to do, that I think are going to line up with things that you need to learn. But if you walk through this class with access to YouTube, with access to, all of the resources at the UCLA stats website, like all of these things, and you don't know how to do stuff, that is on you. Okay. Go find the resources that are going to help you with what you need. All right. There's video lectures, there's Khan Academy, there's YouTube, there's just so much. All right. And the trick is to not just go to one place to get that one sort of thread of understanding. It's go to multiple places, get lots of threads of understanding, braid them together to be a rope that supports you as you're climbing up the wall of statistics. You like what I did with that analogy there? We're gonna go in lots of different places with analogies. Okay. You want to be systematic and organized only because my goal for you is for you to be able to be a productive member of the research community in some aspect, either as a graduate student, as a researcher, as a part of the statistician on a research team. Like if you're joining a research team and you are the new person, the assumption is going to be that your SPSS skills are going to be better than everybody else's because you're new. All right. So the idea is with being systematic and organized is that you are building your files and building your workflow in a way that you can put something down for 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, and then come back to it. And because you've documented everything so well, because your workflow is reasonable and rational, that there should be no drop off in your understanding as long as you have your data in your files. Okay. I don't want all the details of any project that you're doing to be living in your head 100% of the time, because eventually you will forget why you did certain things a certain way in SPSS. And you come back to it, and without any documentation, you are literally having to recreate the wheel. Hate that for you. Hate it. So we're not going to do that. Okay. Fourth key, collaborate when possible. It may have been the case 70, 80 years ago that people did a lot of solo research. That's not the case now. Okay. The research that is produced now is interdisciplinary and it is collaborative. You work on a team where you might be the statistician and there are people who are content area experts. You might be the methodologist and there are other people who are content area experts. Okay. But at the end of the day, we don't work in silos anymore. All right. So you need to be able to work with others. And so, like, one of the things I want you doing in this class is to collaborate with your peers, to work with each other to produce content, to produce something that is has a useful place in the research community. Okay. And so part of that collaborate piece of it is being able to have reproducible research. If you can't reproduce your research, then you cannot collaborate. So what are you doing? Why are you here? All right. And then the fifth thing is have perspective. All right. Listen, there are classes when you need to actually learn every single thing about every single aspect of every single content area. Like, when you're administering medications, I want you to be good at that. All right. You got to be really good at it, because I don't want to go to a hospital somewhere and have people who don't know how to administer medications. Nobody wants that. All right. This class, though, it's not that serious. It's not. It really isn't. Okay. It's rare that you would be in a position of having to answer a stats question on the fly without access to resources. I have never been in a meeting where somebody's like, hey, can you calculate that t-test on the fly right now without access to SPSS? No, that's not how it works. Okay. So it is not that serious. This class can be stressful. It can be frustrating. You can be frustrated by the processes, by making SPSS do the thing you want to do. That can be stressful. You can be stressful. It can be stressful just trying to get through the volume of stuff that we're doing. This textbook has got like 700 pages in it, right? Yeah. This is unreal. Okay. This is over 700 pages in this. All right. That's a lot to get through. All right. But nobody is going to die if we do our job badly in this class. Okay? It's not going to happen. The worst thing that happens if you're a bad statistician is your paper gets rejected, or maybe it gets accepted and then has to be retracted. All right? It's not that serious. All right? So let's have perspective about this. Let's all have the understanding that this is hard. The content is hard. You're getting through a lot of material in this quarter. I mean, we're talking about like 4 months daily dealing with this. All right? It's going to be hard. All right? It's okay. It's all right for it to be hard. But at the end of the day, I want you to be in a position to know more than you did at the beginning, okay? But also have your understanding of the things that you're going to do in this class in 685 be literally, these are tools that you're learning how to use. And you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be batting 1,000 on working with every single tool, all right? Some things you'll be really good at, perfect, really good at, working with XYZ. And then other things you might be like, nobody should let me use that tool. Okay. Because I will hurt somebody or myself. So, my use of this tool is going to be under direct supervision. And that's okay. That is 100% okay. I mean, I'm in this position now where there's some things I'm super good at. I'm really good at, doing XYZ, but there are other aspects of this position that I have less experience with, less expertise in. Okay. So I need to have somebody else kind of work with me. And, I offer something to him and he's like, okay, so this is, where this might be good, this. All right. This needs to be changed here, there. That's fine. It's team science. All right. So have perspective. All right. Nobody should be quitting a program over this class. Nobody should be, having really big feelings about this class. This class can be super fun because I'm giving you the keys to be successful at research, and research is fun. It's so great. Like, once you get past the obstacles with SPSS, the world is your oyster. It's literally just a matter of like, well, what kind of data do you have? Let's see what kind of insights we can get out of it. And I think that's incredibly fascinating. So I am so glad you're here. I am really excited to get this journey underway with you. And yeah, let's do it.